Tom Quee and Sam Wiles present Down in the Hole, a Tom Waits podcast which explores and critiques, episode by episode, every album of the American artist. To find out more information about the show and the man himself, visit TomWaitsPodcast.wordpress.com. Hello everyone, welcome back. This is the 5th episode of Down in the Hole. That's halfway to 10. 5 episodes. This is a podcast in which myself and my friend Sam, what's up?
Hey man, what's going on?
Oh, good to hear you. Myself, Tom Quee, and Sam Wiles, we are huge Tom Waits fans, and we've been exploring his albums. This is our 5th episode, as I said before, so we've been doing in chronological order. So we've done Closing Time, Heart of Saturday Night, Nighthawk, Small Change, and we arrive at Foreign Affairs, which is... It's one of those ones in the discography that you either get two reactions with Foreign Affairs, I find. You either get, I just haven't really listened to it, like, as a lot of people. I don't know if you found that, Sam. Like, a lot of people just, you know, it's one of the blind spots.
The internet kind of is this great distillery of all these Tom Waits opinions that you wouldn't have gotten 20 years ago, which I love. And the one thing you find is either people say this is the most, like, one of his most underrated albums,
yeah, or
one of his most... I do not want to use the word failure today because failure is far too strong.
Yeah, way too strong.
But in terms of like giving me what I want, it's a bit like a movie like Green Zone where it's not offensive.
That is such a forgettable film, isn't it? Like in 10 years, no one will remember Green Zone. It's Paul Greengrass and Matt Damon.
A big director,
and
big actor.
It's about Iraq, Afghanistan. It's about the kind of initial zone, isn't it? The first movements in.
Okay, then. If we put it in the same context, this is a Tom Waits album exploring like noir nightscapes. It should kind of work, really.
I like that. Foreign Affairs is Tom Waits' Green Zone. I think that works in a certain sense. And we'll get onto that. We'll get onto debating that. But I thought before we get into this is we're Down in the Hole. We're expanding as ever. We're trying to just engage with as many Tom Waits fans as possible, really, and just build a dialogue, because that's the best thing, I think, about, as this podcast is testament to, about listening to music and enjoying music. Well, the second best thing, aside from actually engaging with it, is to talk about music, to discuss music, to share your loves and share your ideas on music, you know. So we've set up a few different venues, a few different outputs that you can get in contact with. We have the email, of course, which is TomWaitsPodcast@gmail.com. People have been emailing in, which is really good, talking about songs and stuff, which we'd love to hear and we'll always reply to and read out on the pod. We also have a Twitter as well. That's at TomWaitsPodcast, at TomWaitsPodcast, similar to TomWaitsPodcast@gmail.com. And that's been really fun recently. Basically, I've been using it to mainly retweet pictures and fun facts about Tom Waits. And a lot of the time I just go through his official account. There's like 200 tweets on there over like 5 years, which is very Tom. But a lot of them are kind of like just sort of charming little vignettes of, you know, the sort of wisdom, the jagged wisdom that he'll give.
Do you reckon he's ever posted a real tweet?
No, of course not. Of course not. I mean, I imagine he knows what it is, but it's just not going to play testament to any of his qualities, really. Like, for instance, a tweet that I retweeted on the Tom Waits Podcast account, the Twitter account, which please follow, by the way, was from 2012, and it says, "Acting is like catching wildlife, but you're sneaking up on yourself."
I think Tom could do some interesting things with 140 characters.
Totally. Well, I mean, arguably Potter's Field has 140 characters, but in a different way. But we'll get onto that. So there's the Twitter, there's the email. We also put every episode on YouTube as well, which, you know, quite obvious. But if you do want to stream it, if you're listening to it at work or whatever, as I was one to do at my old job, and I just do a lot of podcasts, it's really good just to have that streaming facility right there, because it's just a bit hackneyed to kind of download it and get Wi-Fi, etc. So, and finally, we also have a blog as well, which is just kind of, we haven't really put anything on there beyond just hosting the Tom Waits episodes and making sure that if you were to Google Tom Waits Podcast, you'd hopefully come across our blog. So people don't really get in contact with us through there, but we did have a lovely message, actually, as I shared with you last night, Sam, from one Marte de Roos. I apologise if I'm saying that wrong. He commented on our Small Change post, and I just thought I'd read this out because it's quite a nice message, really. He says, quote, "Thanks for your podcast. I love Tom Waits' music, but I know I miss so much when listening due to single-sided deafness combined with my near ignorance of music. I've read all of his lyrics, so I know what to listen to as far as lyrics, but I miss out on so much of what is happening with the music. When you point out the musical elements and comment on various instruments, etc., it greatly broadens my listening pleasure as, once informed by your podcast, I know what to listen to for next time when I play that particular piece. I know how much I admire Tom Waits' lyrics and poetry, and how much I love listening to his music, and I just can't imagine how exciting and wonderful it would be to listen with full hearing. Thank you for helping me to understand his music with more information and appreciate his music with more information and understanding. Thank you, Marta. Thank you genuinely so much. That's such a lovely message to receive. Me and Sam are really happy about that.
It really warms the cockles of your heart.
It does. And ultimately, we read that out both as horrifically blatant ego boost, but also as testament to we're not just trying to, like, I hate how albums are reviewed in newspapers and magazines. They give them the shortest shrift. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's just so unpleasant, really. And like with a film, by the way, if you're new to the podcast, we review Tom Waits films every episode as well. So that kind of means a film in which Tom Waits has been in. And after today's Foreign Affairs review, we will go straight into our Bram Stokers Dracula review.
Looking forward to that.
Very excited about that. But going back to Marty's point, it's just, criticism, the aim is not to be some sort of high lofting philosophy on the nature of the music. It's just to dig into it, sink your teeth into it and see what sticks, see what it tastes like. So, I mean, that's what I feel anyway, Sam.
It's just nice that we can be a nice nexus just for Tom Waits fans just to come together, really.
Yes, totally.
And again, thank you very. Was it Marty or
Mart? It was Marte. So I don't know whether it's Mart or Marty.
Yeah, thank you for those kind words. I mean, we're just glad we can give anything extra more than just our own opinions on a couple of songs, really.
Of course. And with that, let's go into Foreign Affairs, Sam.
Foreign Affairs. I didn't when we started this podcast. This was one of the things in the back of my mind. I was like, eventually we're gonna have to come to Foreign Affairs, and this is definitely the album that I've listened to the least in my 5 years of listening to Tom Waits. I don't think I've ever sought out listening to Foreign Affairs. I've never woken up and gone, I really need to listen to Barbershop right now.
Right, okay, yeah, of course.
But, it's basically at this point, the whole concept was Tom just trying to create a kind of classic Hollywood noir beat experience, and was described as kind of taking small change one step further.
Yeah.
Although it could be seen as a bit of a step back, in my opinion. But the whole idea is that, he's kind of trying to create something a bit more remarkable, but a lot of it is very much all-encompassing with this concept, almost. I feel that whenever Tom moves towards a different objective other than just diving into himself, we kind of lose a bit of him through that. And I feel like this is one of the least Tom Waits albums, even though it does feature, like you say, songs like Potter's Field, which is horrifically Tom Waits. Yeah,
totally. It definitely is an extension of Small Change in the sense that he's wading chin deep now into these noirish waters. Like, even you look at the cover, I quite like the cover, actually. I quite like the font on Tom Waits' name, by the way. It's quite a nice font. You don't really see return to his kind of print stuff, but yeah, it's Foreign Affairs for me. As I mentioned in the intro, it was always a bit of a maligned one, a bit of a mystery, a bit of an enigma, a bit of a one that kind of you get to Small Change and you probably skip over to Swordfish, really, or Blue Valentine or something, and it doesn't really kind of occupy that really favoured space. But I have to say, in re-listening to the album recently, I can genuinely say that there's nothing I could conclude that is terrible about it, and there's a lot that I could conclude that I really like about it. And I think that if you're taking that 5 album run from Closing Time to Foreign Affairs, yes, this is the weakest of the 5. I'm not going to deny that, but I definitely don't think it's bad. But I think it starts badly. I think it starts with, is this Cinny's Waltz? Chinnies? Chinnies? Like, any word that begins with a C and doesn't have like a H after it makes me nervous. Like, you know what I mean? If it goes C-I, it's like...
Any Tom Waits album that starts with an instrumental pre-Swordfish trombones gets me worried.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this is the only one, right? Of that ilk.
It's just... Why is this starting the album? Why is this... On the last one, we had fucking Tom Traubert's Blues, one of the most sort of shocking and strap yourselves in intros to a Tom Waits album ever, and now we've just got this little song that kind of just sounds like it should be on the arse end of the, tapes for Swordfish Trombone. For Small Change. It really just isn't that remarkable.
Yeah, it does.
It's overripe. It's almost lucid as well. Like it really doesn't allow you to like do anything with it.
Yeah. No, I feel that. It's very. It feels like an afterthought. Feels like a studio cut. I mean, it opens with those kind of saccharine swirls, and almost the moment it opens, it's kind of telling you that this is going to be an album that's going to be quite oversweet, quite maudlin, quite theatrical. I do think the opening, like descending piano lick, is quite nice. Like it's quite atmospheric. It feels quite noirish. It feels like a scene's being established and emotions being aimed for. And then it goes down a shade, and the bass comes in, and there is like nice ascending string movements there, but at like 2.5 minutes there's no room for it to progress, so Tom just kind of gives way to the saxophone solo, which dominates most of the song, which is rare for Tom. We've discussed this a lot in Down in the Hole, how there's very rare, especially in his early career, there's very rare appearance of musical instrument solos, but this is pretty much half of one.
Yeah, like the little Jack Shelby's little Satchmo bit at the end, in my opinion, it comes in far too late to save the song, and he probably just should have featured it the entire run, really, because it's the most interesting part of it.
Yeah, and just in the same way that Closing Time, the song Closing Time, the instrumental at the end of the first album, feels like, the end credits. This almost feels like the opening to me, an overture, a kind of a small piece that is just, it's just a starter, it's just a little taster of what's to come, but it isn't self-sufficient, I don't think it's that interesting. I mean, maybe it's a waltz, maybe it's designed to be,
danced to.
Exactly. Like you can kind of imagine, like, two people kind of engaging in that way towards it, but it's not the most.
Look, if he's scoring a film, which is kind of like the whole thought behind this, there's clearly not much going on in this scene. It's very boring and safe.
Yeah, it lacks.
Why is this starting off the album? Like, he could have just closing timed it like you say. He could have ended it with this, and it might have been quite bittersweet. I'm like, oh, okay, this is it now, and we end with a bit of saxophone, but it's a little fart, really, and just does nothing.
Yeah, it lacks that individual thrust that an instrumental needs. It lacks that integrity.
Like, imagine if you're like trying to get someone into Tom Waits and you've lost all of your albums besides Foreign Affairs.
City's Waltz.
I know, yeah, man. Strap yourself in.
Yeah, I mean, if you were listening to Tom Waits on shuffle and this was just kind of like a little kind of like palate cleanser between, it definitely succeeds in that regard. But, the horn comes in at the end and it takes us out of the song and it takes us into Muriel, which there's something about Muriel that, yeah, exactly, that the opening line really, much like the femme fatale of the song, who kind of is, represented in the town and stuff like that, like it does get its teeth into you. Like from Tom, we've expected this sense of easy craft, this sense that the songs just arrive out of the music and there's this seamlessness to it. And when I first listened to Muriel over the past weeks, and I was kind of analysing it and stuff, like it did feel a little strained to me. It felt a little on the nose, but give Muriel a chance. I think the song is actually the interaction with the instruments behind the song, the sax is really nice, but it's a little disappointing that we're a big fan here at Down on the Hole of Tom Waits' extended metaphors, Emotional Weather Report and Step Right Up. And here in Muriel, he's kind of doing the same thing. He's kind of like saying, this girl that I don't see anymore is kind of, personified within the street lights and the town and stuff. But
it's not like a wholly literal, like he's still definitely a character within that town as well.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. It's almost like the antithesis of the second song on Small Change, which we have this like emotional hard hitter, and then we go straight into Step Right Up. Again, now this it just feels like another bit, not a throwaway, but just how with the Beatles suffers from basically coming after Please Please Me. This whole album seems to just suffer from coming after Small Change.
Yeah,
it's very hard not to go back constantly and just be like, well, he did this better on Small Change, he did that better on Small Change.
Yeah. These are kind of diet versions, but I mean, you've got to kind of grapple with the fact that this is his 5th album in as many years. Like, the rate of old songwriters back in the 70s and 80s is astonishing to modern conceptions, and the fact that he was so prodigious and he's still putting together, I mean, I know so far this hasn't been to your taste, but it's still quite quality music. Like, it's still well constructed and well composed.
Oh yeah, it's just that I wouldn't personally go out of my way to listen to it. You know, I mean, as the internet has proven, there are many fans of this album.
No, yeah, and there's like the Tom's singing in this and the album as a whole, but singing in Muriel is actually really good. You know, I see you on a Saturday night. He has like little kind of spicy little lifts and drops in the lyrics.
You can almost feel he was a bit trepidatious, perhaps, of maybe the real deep gruff that he went for on Small Change, and some of his softest notes are actually on Foreign Affairs, which is very nice.
Yeah, certainly. But that isn't to say that Muriel isn't without its kind of just weird lyrics. Like, the diamond twinkle in your eye is the only wedding ring that I'll buy you, which I get it, but
I just like the last line. Hey buddy,
yeah,
light.
Yeah, no, I love that because it kind of reminds me of Jitterbug, but it's kind of like he's telling someone else about this song, and that someone else is you. And obviously every Tom Waits song is that you're complicit in this man, but he's kind of the confirmation. And there is just something so Tom Waits about asking someone for a light and calling him buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I think the girl Muriel who he sings about is actually the wife of a noir character who sells cigars. Well, I always saw Tom as more of a cigarette man anyway, but again, as long as smoke fills the room, it's still one of his songs, isn't it?
Yeah, and I agree though, in comparison to his earlier songs in this ilk, these kind of like smokier ballads, like say, a Virginia Avenue or a Depot or something, it's a little bare. It's fine, and I like it because it's Tom Waits, and I like it because he's singing, and there's an elongated solo towards the end as well, which kind of takes out the song, but I'm liking it because it's him. I'm not liking it because it's like a great song. I think it's a little just pedestrian. Okay,
I mean, I'm not like the whole first side of this album. I feel is very weak for a Tom Waits single, but it's actually funny. When I first started listening to this album, my Spotify didn't include Muriel, so I've only known about Muriel for about a week.
Oh, really? Interesting.
And it's a much better second song than the one that we're going to move on to now.
No!
The third track.
I love this song.
Oh no, Bette Midler. I
agree. I was listening to this song about a week ago, walking around town and rolling my eyes, but now I could not. This is maybe my favourite song of the album, even though I like this song is flawed as fuck. Like, I totally know that. Bette Midler has issues on this song. She has genuine issues. She sounds awful on this track.
It is some of the it's the result of some of the worst management I've ever seen. Like, I don't care if she was his Kathleen, like apparently they were dating at the time.
Yes.
But it's I don't know who asked for this. I don't know who was clamouring for a Bette Midler Tom Waits duet.
I think Tom did want it. I think I read that he wanted to do a duet on the album, but he wanted to do a Ray Charles song, "Baby It's Cold Outside."
Oh, that would have been great.
Yeah, but I guess Bones Howell, the producer, was pushing for like just
more marketing value probably.
Yeah, and also just flesh out your own voice. Like, Tom's a very capable songwriter, so they push this. Like, okay, so I Never Talk to Strangers with Bette Midler, weirdly. Which, by the way, listen to this song. I'm like, forget the folksy warmth of Closing Time. Like, this is the kitschiest Tom has ever gotten. Like a kind of a one-on-one, down on his luck, losers in love.
Crappy, shitty ballroom banter and glasses clinking.
Yeah.
And I'd like another Manhattan. Oh, shut up, Bette, please.
Yeah. No. I can defend this film, but I can defend this song, but I can take the hits because I know that it's So we start with that nice jagged piano, and that sax goes.
It's lounge really though. Nice. It's loud.
It is loud. The balance is slightly weird. I think the problem is that when you're doing a duet, you're asking a lot because the instruments carve themselves around a single voice and they're carving themselves around Tom, but now they have to adjust to the very far more light I mean, if you've heard Bette Midler sing, this isn't how she sings normally.
Yeah.
The problem is that when you do a duet, the lead, in this case Tom, although you could argue Bette, but of course it is Tom, their key dictates the key of the song. So it forces Bette to become a lot more conversational, and at times she's flat, and at times she goes really fast. So it's that time when she goes, now let me tell you, would you like to,
Yes.
And
it's not her natural singing
no,
style.
No, and it sounds quite weird. It doesn't sound like a one-on-one duet musical. Like, I think Tom's lovely here, though. I think Tom's voice is back into his Mr. Snuffleupagus gruff.
There's only one bit where he sounds good in this song, and that's when she's been singing for about 2 minutes, and then he just comes right back in with the piano. I'm not even going to pretend like I know the lyrics.
Oh, is it not when you must be reading my mail, when he goes like that?
Yeah, like
that.
when he kind of crashes back into the song.
Yeah. I think that is that. Like, I don't know. I love the way he's like, tell me if you heard this one before. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I have heard it before, unfortunately.
I think it's, at the end of the day, you've kind of got to take a step away and be like, okay, the song's a little bit hackneyed, of course, but like, if we would have gotten to Orphans, Bad As Me. Let's say Bad As Me is the final Tom Waits album. Tom Waits releases no more music. You would
Heaven
be like,
forbid.
You would be like, oh, I wish Tom Waits did like a duet once. Like, I wish he did, just to see what it's like. And we get it here, and we should be grateful that this exists. Like, but I agree. Like, some of the repartee is a little bit.
There is a great Tom Waits duet with John Martin, I believe, where they sing "Lord, I've Been Changed" together. It's very good.
Oh, sweet. Just when it's like, when they have the back and forth, so she's like, "Your life's a damn store novel," and he's like, "Oh baby," in the background, and then she's like, "This town is full of guys like you." Ain't that cold? It's just like, you have to listen back to this because it doesn't really work. It's a very.
Have you heard it when they sing together? When they sing together, it's almost comical. This gravelly booze.
Yeah, I was going to get into that. Yeah, when they harmonise, it is turgid. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, Tom keeps his line, but Bette tries to kind of play above the melody a little bit. And I think it's I wrote it down here. It's a 2:55. So if you listen to the podcast, get in contact. By the way, if you like I Never Talk to Strangers Like Me, even though you realise that it's kind of crappy, but it's admirable. Get in contact with us. That's TomWaitsPodcast@gmail.com, at TomWaitsPodcast as well. Yeah, it's at 2 minutes 55. When it's genuinely really difficult to listen to. It borders on like Chicka Boom level of like just
I love Chicka Boom.
But like the way that Chicka Boom is hard to listen to.
Yeah.
Like, this is hard to listen to because the notes mesh in such an ugly way. I mean, it's like their final kind of like, as duets tend to end, where the two will sing together and ride out the final chorus. It's evocative and successful at times, and part of me, I like the title. I like the bluntness of the title. I Never Talk to Strangers.
It's a great concept for a song, definitely.
It is. And like, even though it's well-trodden ground, I like the kind of summary at the end where it's like, yes, we are strangers, but now that we've met, we can't imagine being apart, and we're so grateful that we realise that everyone is strangers at some point. Like, the girl or guy that you love right now was a stranger to you at one point, so therefore you shouldn't malign strangers. But the song, just as a whole, it doesn't ignite.
You know what? I mean, I know we're trying to keep this very professional. I just don't like it.
Right.
I find it very grating, and it's just not enjoyable to listen to. Like, this is not what I want from a Tom Waits album. And if I was going to be given a Tom Waits duet, I want a much stronger voice and someone much more suited to his, not style but pacing. Like I can feel Bette wants to get higher and higher and more powerful, and she verges on it in moments.
Yeah. It's a weird little artifact, isn't it, for Tom Waits fans that most people won't know about.
It's a failed version of "I Hope I Don't Fall in Love with You Again," really, isn't it?
And just one final note. It's quite a good quote, actually. Basically, so this is the producer of the album, Bones Howe.
Still the producer then.
Still the producer, yeah. Still 5 albums in. Recalling Bette singing it, and she says, quote, "She kept saying, I was sharp on that note. I was flat on that note. Howe said, It doesn't get any better than that. It could be a stage performance. No, it couldn't really. That this would not pass mustard as a stage performance. And Bet was right, because if you listen to this, there are very few times where she fits snugly into this song. She's often just kind of brittle. It's a weird track. It is a really unusual song the more you think about it, and it has moments that I really like. But I appreciate that this is one for the for the sin bin for you.
It's been made. I'm glad that he did it. It's very much just like jumping off a canyon. You do it once, you don't have to do it again. But coming on to a much at least memorable song, shall we say?
Yeah.
I don't know why it's called a medley, but it's Jack and Neil / California, Here I Come.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't really make sure, because a medley is normally like a
three or four.
Yeah, and Tom only sings really California, Here I Come right at the end of the song. So it does
it's kind of indicative of a guy who doesn't know how to finish a song, perhaps, and he's just going to whack this thing on the end.
Yeah, I absolutely adore this track. I really, really like this song. I love this. I love the way it opens, because I mean, we've started going from Cindy's Waltz to Muriel to I Never Talk to Strangers. They're all kind of cut in the same emotional cloth, really, and this one's a far more upbeat road song. And you have that initial sax rising up, and then the bass just kicks in and pulls it down. And Tom, again, a little bit of scat there, but I seem to be forgiving him more for it when he's getting less outwardly jazzy with it, even though this is kind of quite a sort of loose song.
It does have one of his best opening rhyming couplets ever as well. Jack was sitting poker face with bullets backed with bitches. Neil hunched at the wheel, putting everyone in stitches. It sets the tone of the song so well, and obviously it's about Jack Kerouac.
Yeah.
And, Neil Cassidy?
Cassidy, yeah. That's what I was going to ask you, actually, because I kind of, around the same time I got into Tom Waits, I think as most people will, you get into the beats, and I'm not saying I'm like a beat fanatic or anything, but I definitely know about the group, and I know about Neil and Jack. But I mean, did you know about them? I fear that if people didn't know who Jack and Neil were, it might impact the song a bit.
All I really know about Neil is that he kind of broke the way the poems were written in their sort of constrictive writing style, and basically without Neil there's no Jack, but Neil's very much more the friend that kind of got left behind.
Yeah, Neil's very much the muse. He was also mentioned in Allen Ginsberg's Howl as well. But he was kind of the creative inspiration for people like Jack and Allen. But he wrote himself, and he was all part of that. And it's just, Tom obviously mentions the beats regularly, mentions Jack Kerouac especially regularly. Just on Small Change we had The Bad Liver in Lowell, which is where Jack's from. Tom would later go on to cover Home I'll Never Be as well. Nirvana as well. I'm sure there are other resources, but Tom and Jack Kerouac are, obviously Jack Kerouac's a huge influence on Tom. And like, one of the things that I like about this song is that it's this kind of imagined. I mean, if you've read On the Road, they go on these road trips continually throughout the book. So it could just be a variation on any of those things. But it's nice that the song is Jack and Neil, and narratively, dialectically, we just go from Jack to Neil. Here's what Neil's doing, here's what Jack's doing, here's what Neil's doing. And it's all in this car, but it's so varied, and it's so wild. And, like, the writing is terrific in the sense of it's emulating that beat Kerouac kind of loose, spurling out, interesting images, though, and kind of funny and slightly, like, the rhyming, he rhymes California with horny. He says that the nurse drives like Andy Granatelli, who I had to look up, actually. He was like a famous car driver. Just those are these references, like Jack's drinking MD 2020, which is fortified wine that was mentioned in On the Road. Like, musically, the song doesn't really change that much. I think the bass is really important in this song. The bass plays off Tom really well, but it does have that absolutely insatiable groove to it, doesn't it? And like the sax is dominant throughout the song. It languishes above it, and it feels like a road trip. It does. It
definitely reminded me with that sort of pumpy trumpet from Whistling Past the Graveyard on the next album. It's got that sort of jaunty Tom's taking you on a trip thing, and the opening sort of flares are like alarmingly brash, and it is quite a spirit lifter after the kind of three maudlin songs that have kind of gone nowhere so far. But I do think that a lot of the instrumentation after 30 seconds kind of doesn't really do much, and doesn't really have much opportunity to go anywhere. And I think the synergy between the players isn't as on form as it kind of normally is. And I think synergy as a whole for this album seems to be something that it struggles with. Like, there are loads of great composite parts perfectly shown in I Never Talk to Strangers, two perfectly good separate bits kind of smushed together to create something to churn out for next year. And I think Tom really would have benefited from just taking 6 months off.
Yeah.
I mean, as a little aside, just to put a bit of context as to what I'm talking about, the time that this album was created was during one of the few kind of true myths in Tom's sort of history, which is his sort of semi-notorious extended stint at the Tropicana Hotel in California. Yeah. And as a creative space for him to be able to come up with something new, which is one of this album's greatest flaws, I think, may not have been the best. I think, some of this album's failings can be attributed to this lifestyle directly. Tom quotes, I really became a character in my own story. I'd go out all night, get drunk, fall asleep underneath the car, come home with leaves in my hair, grease on the side of my face, stumble in the kitchen, bang my head on the piano, and somehow chronicle my own demise. And I really feel that like a lot of these songs do just sound like because obviously we know by now he's a very talented singer, songwriter, musician, and it just feels like a lot of it is just plinky plonk, banged out. And yes, Tom, a lot of this album does feel like you have banged your head on the piano. You know what I mean? It's
I guess, and similarly, I guess if he's running low on inspiration, he could easily have banged out a song about Jack and Neil, because obviously those are people that are heroic to him.
Oh yeah, like I'm glad he hasn't started rhyming maybe with baby and started selling songs to 70s synth pop. But I think it's selfish. I always want Rain Dogs, you know what I mean? But I'm just not going to get it, and I should learn to accept that, really.
I think complaints volleyed at instrumentation on this song a little unfair, and are maybe more valid on Sight for Sore Eyes, the next song. I think I see this song as like the missing link between Postcard Nighthawks and something more explicitly spoken word like Ninth and Hennepin. Like, it is kind of a spoken word tune, but Tom just delivers. Like, there's a really nice bit when he talks about shove the finger to the moon, and it just kind of pulls out and drops, and there's a lot of nice breathing space here. There's a lot of awareness that there's a poet who's riffing on top of this music, and the music needs to sometimes give him space for that. It is like 4.5 minutes or something. It's quite a long tune, so if you're not necessarily interested in the beats, or this sort of music doesn't grab you, then it makes sense. I mean, I've got a interview which Tom Waits gave around the time of Foreign Affairs. He gave this to Bart Bull, and I'm quoting from Bart's article directly, and we join Bart when he's trying to interview a reluctant Tom Waits. He says, quote, I was trying to draw him out somehow, trying to get him to say things that I could quote him on, but no dice. It was time to try a new tact. I'd like to talk about Kerouac, I told him. Waits had obviously been influenced by Jack Kerouac, the spontaneous prose spewer. One of the songs on his latest album, Jack and Neil, was loosely biographical. Besides, Kerouac is about as close as I come to having a hero. Okay, so you want to talk about Kerouac? Tom Waits pulled a deeply worn brown leather jacket from the floor onto his lap and was lost in the contemplation of its every wrinkle. This was a dead end. Things were beginning to look grim. And then Tom just goes, anything at all you want to talk about? And so not really a Kerouac thing, but just a nice little interview moment of Tom's kind of reading the interviews from this period. Especially, he does seem quite, I mean,
he's not the showman he is yet.
Not yet,
and he doesn't know how to manipulate these interviews to, like, he has fun with them in later life.
Totally, but I really like Jack and Neil. I think that, like, 4 songs in, like, Cindy's Waltz is a little bit of a filler, and the songs have flaws, but it's very hard for me to say they're bad.
But you can do it, though. You can do it.
I could try. I probably think the worst song coming so far, song, obviously you can't really count Cindy's Waltz, is Sight for Sore Eyes, even though I adore the lyrics to this song. I think the lyrics to this song are absolutely fantastic, but I cannot stand that Auld Lang Syne maudlin piano that just keeps going and going. And I'm pretty sure that this song was an older song of Tom's.
That he kind of brought
yeah.
again, lending itself to the patchwork that is this album.
Yeah, it's that old kind of, the recollection of the old days, the life gone by. I think Tom.
Loads of lovely throwaway names.
Yeah, there are. There's lots of really Tom's so good at that. Tom is so good at the one line that really breaks you down. Like there's a line from "Take It With Me" where it's like, "I've worn all the faces off all the cards," and that's it, and that's all you need. That's incredible, But there's a moment in the third verse where he kind of he starts it and he really gruffles, "Well, the old gang ain't around," It's kind of like that sort of frog throat kind of grumble. That's really nice actually, and I really like the sense in the song where it's this stream of consciousness of what's happened to the old guys really, and it's kind of
it's very much like the one that got away. A lot of people have compared this song to Tom Traubert's Blues, even Barney Hoskins, which I've never understood. Maybe in that it's overlong and there's too many verses.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's just that horrible lullaby, like the problem with the sort of sleepy lullaby go to sleep melody is that it's one of the more kind of egregious examples of Tom pushing this gravelly voice against a nice sweet tune, and it really doesn't work as well as say something like Tom Traubert's Blues.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just think that if you're at a computer listening to this, I would urge you to just search for Cypher Sorai's lyrics, because it is just this stream of consciousness, I say, where people just blur from one to the other of all these past people, and it's really nice, and it's just Nash was killed in a crash, and this guy's married to he, and you only get a line for one guy, and then you find out another guy who went off somewhere, and he did this, and he did that, and they all went there, and at the end of it, there's this guy, there's the singer, who's calling the person in the song a sight for sores because it's been so long since they've done all this stuff together, and that is quite sad, and I love the final line, man. I'll play you some pinball, hell you ain't got a chance. Well then go over to her and ask for a dance. It's just kind of very simple, very kind of...
the best line is actually the one before that. She's married with a kid, finally split up with Sid, and he's up north for a nickel's worth. And I love that line, obviously to know he's in jail for 5 years.
Yeah.
One lyric in this song that's kind of grating for me is they mention Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah.
And I think you can't mention Joe DiMaggio in a song after Mrs. Robinson.
Maybe. I think he's such a universal figure. Though.
Maybe it's because we're British and he's not part of our sort of cultural miasma. That maybe it just seems a bit more grating to me. But yeah, lyrically, you're very correct. It's a lovely song. Melodically, it's Tom just bashing one out again. Really.
Yeah, he's on autopilot. It kind of makes me sad. Really, I'm like, Tom, why couldn't you have written a original composition for these lyrics, because these are really nice. When
you say autopilot, the plane's still going to land and everyone's going to get there safely, but there's a lot of turbulence in this flight.
Yeah, and it's just there's a lot of affectations that we've heard before. Half drunk all the time, all drunk all the rest, or whatever. Full drunk all the rest.
This album's got quite a lot of repeated little words and phrases actually. I had a list somewhere, but the one that sticks out in my mind is "What's the lowdown brown? What's the lowdown brown? I'm heading out of town." That's from Nighthawks, and then there's constant whiskey and women. I think Tom's not running out of ideas, but there is this certain retreading and revisiting of themes that can tend to make the album feel a bit samey.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's very little new ground broke upon Foreign Affairs, and what is new ground is a duet, which you hate. I think Potter's Field is genuinely quite incendiary, but Sight for Sore Eyes is just kind of, it's again too long, quite a bit of struggle through.
It's weird you should say that for this album, because it's a very short album.
It is.
Actually been, I wouldn't say we've been purposely talking about these songs a longer, but I think we just naturally have. It's 9 songs long, and yet most of the songs still feel too long.
They do. Yeah, it's 37 minutes long, this record or something, which is really short in even in Tom terms, but in general terms as well. So yeah, I think Sight for Eyes, it's a nice time warp. It's a song that I think would warm me when I'm older, and it would lay into tap into your own recollections of your own childhood and, you know, teenage years and stuff like that. But it's just not got that grit underneath it that I need Tom to give me.
It's a good song just for teach me what a palooka was, but that's about
yeah,
it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. There you go. So
you never don't learn something from a Tom Waits song.
No, you do constantly learn.
If you're learning American history, like Tom Waits is one of those guys you should just listen to.
Well, yeah, but I think on that there was a David Letterman interview where he was talking about like helping his kids with his homework, and it's like I think I invented a war once.
Never let Dad help you with your homework. Yeah.
So we go into Potter's Field, which
this is like, oh, thank God, a bit of reprieve now.
Jesus Christ, this song is incredible.
Yeah,
like,
it is
absolutely incredible. This is, I mean, like A Step Right Up is still #1 spoken word Tom Waits song for me. But I think just for raw writing and composition abilities, this is just an astonishing piece of work, Sam. Like,
Potter's Field is it in my sort of perfect little world where Tom Waits either went on tour again or got a little holiday. You pretty much could have grabbed Potter's Field, grabbed Jack and Neil, and maybe one or two other songs off this album, and just made a double album with Small Change, and just released all them. But maybe Potter's Field would have actually made Small Change a bit top heavy.
Yeah, no, you couldn't have put Potter's Field on there, no.
But Jesus Christ, man, this like the way the song starts. Like I know you said how like Cindy's Waltz as the opening track for an album should feel like the one that sets the scene more. But I do feel like in that sort of monochromatic way, the opening to Potter's Field is like its own little movie.
Yes, it is.
And it has its opening sort of set the scene, classic detective film sound, and then the way it just kind of goes quiet again, and then you just have Jim Hugart back on bass again, lulling you slowly deeper,
it's like a sort of
and
spider
deeper.
Webby bass.
And
yeah,
I think it's Tom on xylophone, or it might be Shelley Main as his percussion. But like it's such an alluring song. Like you can't wait to hear what is said.
No,
and it incorporates so many elements of not just like noir. Like, but it incorporates like lots of thrillers, like Bernard, Taxi Driver, Herman's in there. There's lots of flares of Hitchcock. It's really fun.
It is a hell of a lot of fun, and it's finally in the spoken word pieces. The music's catching up to Tom's own virtuosity with words. Like, he was always a gifted lyricist, but just the way the music goes in this, and when, you know, I can't remember what Tom says. I'm just trying to find the actual lyrics. But there's a time when the music pulls out and he just like starts like almost shouting. You're like, you'll know what the real meaning of I'm trying to think of what he says, but you know what I'm talking about. Like
I'm trying to find it now.
Yeah. But lyrically, there's just so many great lines. Like, I love there's a line in the third stanza. It's just kind of a one-off sort of description, but he was in a wrecking yard in a switchblade storm in a wheelbarrow with nothing but revenge to keep him warm. Which is really nice. And just, you know, the whole thing is this guy kind of telling you the location of this guy. Nightstick, is it? Nightsticks, I believe, is the guy that's kind of like the one who's being chased for. And there's a great section towards the end that I really, really like. Quote, and if you want to know where the Nightstick's hiding out, you'll be down at the ferry landing. Oh, let's say about past a nightmare, when it's twisted on the clock, and you tell him Nickel sent you. Whiskey always makes him talk, and if you ask for Captain Sharon with the mud on his kicks, he's the skipper of the Deadline steamer, and she sails from the Bronx across the River Styx, and a riddle is just a ticket for a dreamer. It's just, you know, it really enters that surreal landscape that Small Change was so grounded in the pot boiler detective narrative, which, you know, we said in the prior podcast, I'm not really a fan of noir, but I am a fan of Potter's Field because it just extends into this weird mythological, just such an unusual landscape.
Well, I can't tell whether Potter's Field succeeds because it's got one foot in the old Tom, very much in that spoken wordy era, and, you know, he's only got a sprinkling of noir, or is it that he's gone completely full circle and he's dived right into it and added that surreal element that just makes it so, like, it's very unique. And I think one of the things the album suffers from is a lack of uniqueness. For lack of a better word. Like, I love how Nightstick's heart pumps lemonade.
Yeah.
There's just loads of cool stuff. Too many mentions of blind men and whiskey in this song.
There is a lot of whiskey chat, yeah.
Yeah, but the whole album does. But, like, you know, you've got Scars and Chases and February Chills. It's like What's a black shillelagh?
I don't want to answer that.
Hang on, I might have an answer here. An oaken sapling or cudgel. Oh, so it's like a beat stick.
It's just because I mean, Potter's Field itself is the cemetery where the unidentified bodies are buried as well. So it's kind of
it's ironic that we didn't listen to Ironweed when we reviewed this album.
It is.
They actually do that. They actually bury paupers' graves.
If you want to hear our Ironweed, that was on Nighthawks, was it?
That was that was our first film review on Nighthawks episode 3, I believe. Yes.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah, that's right. So you can listen to that on episode 3, our review of Ironweed with Jack Nicholson. I got it, Jack Nicklaus last time, and Meryl Streep's very good. Yeah, Potter's Field is fantastic. Really, it's an absolute sprawling monster of a track. It
almost makes you wish that whoever the director for No One was, the pre-MTV Tom Waits animated music video, that if he just waited a year, he could have had Potter's Field.
Yeah,
which would have been way better to lend itself to visualization as well.
Yeah. Oh, totally. But almost, yeah.
Francis Ford Coppola could do a great short film to just dramatize all of these songs. Like as a guy who kind of grew up watching a lot of music videos, obviously my sister as well. I wish Tom Waits had more, but he just kind of doesn't. And he only really has them in his later period.
Yes.
Have you seen any of his music videos? They're always very low budget and kind of rustic and odd.
Yeah, they're okay. I watched his video for Hold On recently, actually.
Literally just him with a guitar, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Like they aren't high concept. They are, because you get the feeling that he would just, the idea of a music video to him would be kind of not repulsive, but just a little bit auxiliary. It wouldn't be something that would interest him. So after Potter's Field, we go into another.
There's a lot less. The danger's kind of gone now.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, go on.
Oh no, I was going to say that there is this menace and dread that Potter's Field has, and it kind of blows its load, and now we get a much softer song, and this is by far the best song off the album.
Really
probably the best song off the next 3 albums.
Yikes! What?
Yeah.
This is better than Christmas Card from a Hooker.
Yes. This is better than a Christmas Card from a Hooker.
This is better than Whistling Down the Graveyard.
Whistling Down the Graveyard's okay, but more on that next week. But
that's such a statement. Okay.
I fucking love Burma Shave.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. Tell me.
Hate to go back to the old you introduced to Tom Waits thing, but it's very important. We're contextualizing all of this, and Shuffle was a big thing back in the day, kids.
Shuffle was a bigger deal when we were kids.
Yeah, it was, now
do people shuffle anymore? People just stream now.
People mostly just shuffle on dance floors now.
That's true.
But I remember, I was just flicking through, and I'd always see the album cover to Foreign Affairs, and I was just like, meh. And I'd just keep going through, and then I had it in my pocket. And, I was like, and then I heard this this beautiful piano, probably some of his most sublime piano ever recorded. And then I listened to the whole thing, and then I was like, oh, okay. I bet this is off the arse end of Heart Attack and Vine or something.
Yeah.
No, wow, this is off that album that I cannot stand.
Yeah.
And sadly, it's not enough to save the album, but it comes bloody close.
Yeah, this is a great.
No, this is. I don't even know what you're gonna say. This is in his top 10 songs.
Oh my! This is such a surprise that you would have put this so high. But this is. I'm not going to say I skip over this track, and I do like the piano, but I think similar to Tralbert's Blues, it relies too much on that refrain, and it's a little bit repetitive for me. And I don't think the story's that engaging or entrancing.
Oh no, I'd say it's almost hauntingly beautiful, especially set against Potter's Field, which was about this sort of the downside of crime. This is kind of a much more perfectly visualized romanticization of it, a bit of a Bonnie and Clyde type story.
Yeah. It's
and I just think his lyrics are a lot clearer than in Tom Trolbert's Blues as well.
Yeah, totally.
It takes a couple of listens of Tom Trolbert's Blues to get what's even going on, really. Especially if you have to kind of download the whole song and process it. But I think especially in the way Tom sings this track as well, it is the softest we will hear.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
And we've said before that, like, the Tom off closing time was dead, but this is a little nod to that, really.
Yeah, and there's when I was going through and reading the lyrics as well. By the way, everyone should check out TomWaits.com, his official website. The lyrics on there are the best. And not obviously anywhere you go, the lyrics will be accurate. Just the way the website works is really good. You can just click on an album thumbnail, and then you get like the track listing, and the lyrics just load automatically, and you get like a mini review of the album itself as well. So I was looking for the album and reviews of Burma Shave, and there's a reference in the second stanza to Farley Granger. His hair looks like Farley Granger. I don't know if you're aware of who he is.
Kind of look like Farley. No, go on, please.
He's an actor who's famous for his collaborations with Hitchcock. He's in Rope and Strangers in a Train.
Oh, he's in Rope. I love Rope.
Yeah.
Fantastic little sort of bottle movie.
Yeah, so again, we're getting those sort of noirish references littered all over the thing. I'm not going to take away from this song. I'm definitely not going to hate on this song.
Come on, like the way his voice is so soft that he can't even pronounce the letter T in cowboy hat. Like, he can't even say hat. Like, it's so soft and beautiful. Like, I really feel like he's got a lot more respect for this song than anything else on the album.
There are some lovely images.
She took out her breath. Like,
count the grain elevators in the rearview mirror. Like, just that idea of being on this dirt desert road and seeing these huge machines behind you. Like, it's evocative, man.
Very much like Invitation to the Blues. It's also got that. This is just me in the way that I like to listen to songs, but it's got that lovely rhyming couplet at the end, and you want to know how he's going to alter it slightly, and it's always satisfying every time. Like, and Burma Shave, I do believe, is just a generic shaving cream company, but it's it's just nice for Tom to take something wholly American and make it into a place.
Yeah, it's just that kind of. Yeah, exactly. It's that kind of idealised, well, not necessarily idealised, but the sort of, for Tom, an idealised place, and kind of taking the words and putting them into it and making somewhere new. It's not a bad song, and definitely if you were to kind of make a compilation of, I was going to say this would be a spoken word piece, but it's not really, is it? It's kind of, it is a song. The
way his voice moves around, like, it definitely has to be sung.
Yeah, totally. So we move on into Barbershop, Sam.
Oh, this is
snip.
Right, this looks like a Tom Waits classic with Jim Hugar. It sounds like a Tom Waits classic with Jim Hugar. It tastes like one, but it just isn't.
No, that's true. That's true.
On a surface level, it's a classic, but the more, like, if you listen to it a second time, it's kind of like that film that came out a few years ago, Gravity.
Okay.
Like, wow! The first time I listen to it and watch it, like, you are blown away. Going back, this is terrible.
Oh, really? I still see it.
Still see it. Yeah, Sandra Bullock's very mediocre. But as is this song, really. I don't really know what the point of it is. It's not particularly funny. If that's what it's going for. Like, perhaps like our lack of knowledge of the importance of a haircut in this situation is, but like, I don't even know why a haircut being shorter than someone else's is good or bad. Like, I would have thought Tom would go for like a more of a long hair look at this point. Anyway.
I think he's playing a character. I think he's playing like a young kid who's kind of going in and sort of like saying like, he wants a haircut, but he hasn't paid for the last haircut, and he's going to the circus and all that sort of stuff. It's fine. The bass is a little, just the sound of the bass almost sounds unplugged. It sounds very.
It's got a lovely warble without boom.
Yeah.
At the end of each bar, but like, it is the runt of the Hugar bass lines, isn't it?
Yeah, it just doesn't really make you snap. Like,
you could feel yourself almost clicking along, but like, except for the actual just riff itself, which probably could have had a better song put to it. It just feels like he's almost trying too hard in a way.
This is quite a filler track, really. It's again with Tom. There's not really bad songs. It's very listenable too, but it ain't. There's nothing totemic here. There's nothing revelatory.
Michael Jackson's filler.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, and it just doesn't. And when I initially was looking at the track listing, and I didn't really remember this song when I was reviewing the album for the pod, and I was like, oh, is this a barbershop song? Like, is Tom gonna
a quartet? That would be but him on like 4th track, just all him.
Yeah, that would be
fantastic.
That would be a sight. Yeah, but,
if he's listening to this now, that's going on the next album. I can't believe I never thought of that. You know.
So I don't think we need to spend much time on Barbershop. I mean, if you like Barbershop,
we'll probably spend around the same time we spend on Foreign Affair.
Probably. If you like Barbershop, you know, get in contact with us at TomWaitsPodcast on the Twitter. That's at TomWaits at podcast@gmail.com as well. Just in case you're new listening as well, we release episodes every second Thursday of the month. So
second and fourth.
Second and fourth, sorry, yeah, second and fourth. So so every 2 Thursdays of the month, every fortnight Thursday. So yeah, Foreign Affair. I don't mind Foreign Affair actually.
Come on. How do you mess up the title track and make it the most forgettable song on the album?
Yeah,
it's so safe. Sentimental, nostalgic strings, like Hollywood schmaltz. Get over it, Tom. Start living on a country farm, looking at barns.
Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like when you encounter his follow-up, Blue Valentine, it is clear that he's decided in of himself to make a musical shift, to make a change. And Foreign Affair, the song Foreign Affair, is kind of the last gasp of that era, really, of this kind of, schmaltzy Tom. I don't mind the melody. I think the melody doesn't... It doesn't work too bad, but...
Mate, can you remember any of the lyrics to Foreign Affair?
No. I've got them up in front of me, and let me just read the final stanza, which is pretty clumsy, actually. A foreign affair juxtaposed with a stateside and domestically approved romantic fancy is mysteriously attractive due to circumstances, knowing it will only be paralysed into a memory. Sorry, what?
Yeah. Oh no. It's got a bit in the first stanza that almost kind of fits the melody, but then he kind of just gives up on it. He goes, and subsequently bear in mind your transient position allows you a perspective that's unique. And it's like, and he kind of like, it's like, is that the best take you got out of that one, Tom? Like,
I agree. And looking at the lyrics are so formal. The second line is, "It's my belief one must attempt to be discreet." It's just kind of,
it's like, sorry, Lady Chatterley.
This isn't the way Tom speaks, and you could forgive him for all of these, stylistic discrepancies if the song actually popped in any way. But Foreign Affair, the song, does not. And it kind of just ends the album, unfortunately, on a bit of a damp squib.
Yeah, it's a bit of a toot and a snare, and just like, and then that was Foreign Affair, I guess.
Yeah. So that was Foreign Affairs, 1977's Foreign Affairs, as we always do here at Down in the Hole. Because, it's great to dive into music, but it's also good to say, what's your best song? What's your least favourite song? That sort of base criticism. So we'll start with your least favourite song on Foreign Affairs, Sam.
Ooh, I'm almost spoilt for choice here now.
You are, really. You are.
We've never had this many sort of...
no obvious candidates.
Probably, you know what? I know that you probably won't choose it, so I feel I have to put I Never Talk to Strangers on there, just so you can't put it on the best.
I thought that was correct. For me,
I never listen to strange songs.
Yeah, for me, I think the album only really fails at the last hurdle. I think Barbershop and Foreign Affair are the worst songs on the album.
Not Sight for Sore Eyes.
I think lyrically that's redeemed.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, musically it's a little trite. But yeah, I'll probably put Foreign Affair in there just because I like the way Tom goes snip, snip, snip on Barbershop.
Title track's in the sin bin.
See, it's annoying though because it is a title track, but it's called Foreign Affair and the album's called Foreign Affairs. It's like, that's really annoying. But favourite song, Sam? Favourite song on the album?
Burma Shave next.
Burma Shave.
Yeah.
My head's saying Potterfield just because it's such an achievement, but I really.
But your heart.
I like Jack and Neil. I like Jack and Neil a lot.
Really?
Yeah. I love the lyrics, man. I love the way the bass plays around and waits for Tom to finish a line and then jumps back into the mix. It's a really compositionally good song.
It does feel extra cheeky when Tom swears as well. I don't know what that is, but just hearing him saying bitches or you don't give a shit. It's like, ooh.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, he's quite clean.
He's a guy who spends so much time on each word being chosen that if he's gonna say horny, it's obviously got to hit you in a certain place, and you do feel like the intention behind everything he writes.
I believe I've just got the lyrics up now. He mentions fucking while they're driving, and when she came, she honked the horn. I was like, Tom. I was like, that's pretty full on, orgasm chat.
Hang on, I'm trying to look at that. Yeah, and when she came, she honked the horn. Oh my god! And just barely missed the truck. That's probably referring to the terrible movie version of On the Road.
I never saw that. Yeah.
There's a horrible scene when Kristen Stewart, who's not a bad actress, but she's just in terrible films. She's in the front seat, kind of sat on the gear shift, like where the gear shift would be, and she's wanking off the two guys, one in each hand.
Oh wow!
In the car, and like this, people are driving past them, and it's kind of meant to be like cheeky and naughty, but unless the film was made in the 50s, it's just not going to have that kind of impact. But from one film to another, see the little professional segue I did there.
Oh, that was very impressive. Yeah.
Bram Stokers Dracula, and originally going to be called D, just kind of separate itself. And then Francis Ford Coppola says, well, no, I did Mario Puzo's The Godfather. I'll call it Bram Stoker's Dracula.
I really like the fact it's called Bram Stoker's Dracula, actually.
And it's also, it legally distinguishes it from the classic Bela Lugosi 1930s film. Have you seen the original Dracula?
I haven't, no.
It's definitely worth the watch. It's like The Mummy's kind of crap, Frankenstein's kind of crap, but Dracula's genuinely quite good.
And is it a faithful adaptation similar to Bram, or?
As my reliable sources, my other half practically tells me it's very inaccurate.
Oh, okay.
A lot of the famous scenes and moments in their film, like listen to the children of the night. That's not in the book. Dracula's got a moustache as well.
Oh.
He has a white moustache that I've never seen in any adaptation.
Well, that's a shame. Yeah, I
obviously reviewing this movie for Tom Waits' appearance as Renfield, and I'd never seen this movie before.
Oh, really?
I'd literally never seen it before.
This is like I've had this film on DVD for like 12 years.
Yeah. Although, when I encountered it, I was watching it, and obviously I said to you, the opening scene is fucking incredible in this film.
Okay, right. Sorry, podcasters, but we are going to take 2 minutes just to talk about the opening scene that Tom doesn't feature in at all.
It is. If you haven't,
watch the movie for this scene.
No, completely. This film's a bit flawed, and it's okay, and I wasn't a huge fan of it, but the opening 5 minutes of this film, when it's set in 1462, and you see the origin of how
Dracula became Dracula.
Yeah, it is astonishing.
Forget the Star Wars prequel trilogies. If you want to boil down a character's backstory as to why he's evil, you can do it in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's absolutely perfect. Basically, he goes off to war and kills everyone, and then the Turks basically convince his wife waiting at home that he has died, and she commits suicide, and he returns and crying over a dead body, and the priests tell him that she's damned.
Actually played by Anthony Hopkins. Oddly enough,
yes,
that is Anthony Hopkins. Yeah. He plays a character called Caesar. I'm not sure what distinction that has, but he she's committed suicide. So obviously, in the Christian faith, if you commit suicide, you go straight to hell. He can't handle that, so he renounces God, and it's fucking fantastic. He's wearing this red armor that looks like all the muscle and sinew underneath, and he stabs a sword into a stone crucifix, and it starts bleeding. And there's an alternative take.
Gushing.
There's an alternative take of this scene where it gushes straight onto his face, and he's drenched in blood. But I think it's a bit too dramatic.
And there's this absolutely spine-tingling moment when he's drinking the blood and screaming at the crucifix, saying they will haunt death. It's crazy, man. It's really powerful, really powerful. I can't believe that, because here in England at least, kids still study Dracula at school.
It's very much a staple, isn't it?
Yeah, and inevitably you watch the film, and I'm wondering, do people watch this film in school? Because it's so bloody and weird. But
there is a giant anthropomorphic wolf having sex with a woman in this. I don't think the little kiddies.
No,
oddly enough, I love the amount of different Draculas there are in this movie. We've got young Gary Oldman, old Gary Oldman. We've got the werewolf. We've got the giant bat. It's a very fun film. Winona Ryder gives one of her best performances. Weirdly.
Yeah, she's very good actually. I haven't seen much of her in it, but she's much of her work, but she's good.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about Keanu Reeves. Anyone who's seen this movie or is vaguely aware of this movie, no, he's not very good. Francis Ford Coppola has basically said he was my little boy on that movie, but I basically needed someone famous to bring in girls. Fair enough. But you could have brought in like a young Ethan Hawke, you know what I mean? Like, you could have brought in 50 other guys could have played this British loser. Speaking of characters who should be British losers, Renfield is supposed to be a sort of mid-40s, upper-class British sort of twit lawyer. And it's very funny to think that there is a prequel to this movie somewhere where Tom Waits is just going around England in the sort of 18th century as a lawyer, still with the voice of Tom Waits, though.
So So Sam, let's talk about Renfield and Tom Waits' performance as Renfield.
A king, I beg you, a little sleek, a braver king, something I can teach, something I can feed. No, refuse me a king. Wouldn't you prefer cat? Oh yes, a big cat. My salvation depends upon it. Your salvation? I need lives. I need lives for the master.
Well, it's funny actually. Since it's Francis Ford Coppola, you'd assume that they've done Down by Law and One from the Heart. Tom, I've got this great role for you.
Did he do Down by Law? I think that was Jim Jarmusch.
Oh, Jim Jarmusch. Sorry, yeah, sorry. One from the Heart and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Tom, I've got a great role for you. Actually, it was originally going to go to Steve Buscemi.
Oh, really? Interesting.
And I could kind of see that. And Renfield's great in this. He's barely in it.
That's the problem. Tom Waits is barely in. He plays Renfield. He plays sort of Dracula's kind of like assistant who's kind of helping to plot his return and stuff. But Tom Waits is outstanding in this. You first encounter him like he's the second scene in the film. Basically, he's the first scene in the present day.
The opening angle at which you're introduced to him, this sort of warped, twisted, like he's kind of in the bottom right of the frame, and he's reaching off camera and talking off camera to something in the top left. And obviously he takes a bug and starts eating it, and there's loads of little great close-ups of bugs and insects, and Tom plays a ranting crazy man well because the actor's there.
so well, and like there's Richard E. Grant's in this as well, which is
again
great to see.
Even less time than Tom Waits actually.
But like there's a scene when Tom Waits. Remember when Tom Waits wants a kitten and he's like, something I can teach, something I can feed. No one will refuse to be kitten. Like he's come leaps and bounds. We've been chronicling acting, Ironweed, he kind of plays himself as Rudy. Wolf in Playing the Fields of Lord is kind of...
He is Renfield in here, you're very right.
He's outstanding as Renfield. He has this kind of weird goggly glasses and like an open chest.
And these weird hand contraptions as well.
Yeah, like...
I do like, whenever Renfield's on screen, the lens changes. And that sort of... But I think the lens changes, but just because they're always in the asylum. You never see Waits leave the asylum. No. He was probably on set for no more than two or 3 days. Yeah. Annoyingly, there is a deleted scene. We see Renfield die. Dracula can turn into mist, basically, and he bashes Renfield's heads through the iron bars, kind of like crushing him.
Yeah.
But there's another scene where Renfield's actually kind of like not dead yet, and he tells Anthony Hopkins a lot of the necessary backstory.
Oh, okay.
And we actually see him die, and he doesn't get a worthy send off in the cut that we get. But unfortunately, the whole film, like if you have to talk about its flaws, the whole film does suffer from pacing problems, cutting problems, characters' motivation seem to jump half an hour's worth of development. And I don't know if you felt this, Tom, but there's this looming nod and wink to the audience, and the film's very well aware of all the other incarnations of Dracula before. And I feel like if it didn't have this, a lot of its like fantastic costume design and set design would appeal a whole lot more organic. But it feels post Dracula.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, because it's such a direct adaptation, like the novel of Dracula, Dracula, was a pastoral, so was told entirely through letters. So you just, each
we do get a lot of that though.
Yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying, because it's so faithful for that. It becomes difficult to be compelling as a film narrative. That's not really how film works. Film doesn't work like this character perspective, this character. It's a constant mesh, and there's almost feels like there's too many storylines going on, which is kind of the fault of the book more than anything. But
like a good example is the character of Lucy. Like she's got like 3 different male suitors that could have been one character.
There's a great scene though when she's charming all the suitors. She's really good.
I've never seen her in anything else, but she's fantastic.
That's Sadie Frost.
That's Sadie Frost?
Yeah, that's Sadie Frost.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because I thought the same thing. When I watched the film, I was like, she's fantastic. Who is this actress? And then, it was Sadie Frost, who hasn't made a film in, hasn't made a known film in decades. Mm-hmm. She's just kind of... Well, she was obviously an actress in 90% Jude Law. I think she was married to Jude Law for a while as well.
Oh, okay.
But, so I think Dracula is probably the best film I've watched so far for Tom Waits.
It's the only film that I will go back and watch at some point. Like... at home in the fields of the Lord, what a boring movie. Like Dracula's got pacing problems.
No, at least Dracula's got vampires in it. That had no salvation.
Oh no, and it's got great special effects. Like there's barely any sort of post effects, and there's this great bit where the now Bond girl Monica Bellucci, she's topless and naked and writhing over Harker, Keanu Reeves' character, and she sees his cross, and she kind of raises her hand to it. And it's a very fast edit of obviously a real porous metal melting in real time, and it's like she's melted it quick. Yeah, wow. It's a nice little special effect.
Yeah, I agree. I think if Bram Stokers Dracula was made today, it would look absolutely abysmal because CGI is just.
Have
awful.
You seen the way Francis Ford Coppola uses CGI these days? He's in a film that Tom Waits is also in. I don't think we'll get to it. It's called Twixt, starring Elle Fanning.
Okay.
And it's like Francis Ford Coppola just this minute discovered what a green screen was.
Oh no!
And now he overuses it, and obviously since Francis Ford Coppola is like the Spielberg of bombs, like no one's giving him money anymore.
Spielberg of bombs.
Well,
no, you're right. Yeah.
Like when we get to One from the Heart, we'll probably have to. We're going to have to do a lot of research into it because the songs and the movie itself and the production problems are all interconnected in such an odd way.
Yes, they are, and it's just it's
well,
so weird, really. That Coppola had the greatest decade in the 70s, and then kind of
it's such a decade.
4 movies that are just masterpieces. But we'll get onto that. This is a Tom Waits podcast, so
not a Francis Ford Coppola podcast. But yes.
No, not yet. No. So yeah, that's been Foreign Affairs. That's been Down in the Hole. Thank you as ever for listening. We really appreciate it. We've been kind of, getting okay numbers download wise, which is quite encouraging. So thank you.
Yes,
if you've told anyone about friends or anything, we really appreciate that.
Yeah, we've had people from all over the world. Like I think we have one fan in Senegal who's downloaded all 4 of our episodes. We've had someone in New Zealand. It's really fun, and it's also nice that we seem to have a bigger following in America than we do in England.
Yeah, exactly, like Tom.
Yes.
But yeah, also just please feel free to get in contact with us anytime. TomWaitsPodcast@gmail.com, at TomWaitsPodcast. All those things on the blog as well, downinthehole.wordpress.com. Just search Tom Waits Podcast in Google and you'll find us. So
we're also very big in Japan as well.
Also very big in Japan, yeah. So I've been Tom.
I've been Sam.
Sam has been Sam. And thank you so much for listening. And we'll see you next episode, which will be Blue Valentine.
One which, as I've said before, is special because it is the best opening 4 songs on any Tom Waits album. But until then...
I could debate you on that. That's interesting.
I'm
trying to think what the 3rd song on Mule Variations is. Is it like Hold On?
No, I think the 3rd song... No, Picture in the Frame's really late.
No, Picture in the Frame's really late. Okay, look.
Yeah,
we'll debate that, yeah. So thank you so much for listening. This has been Foreign Affairs Down in the Hole. We'll see you next time. Cheers. Bye.
I know you worked with Bette Midler. Are you going to do anything with her in the future recording-wise? She's
Maybe,
great. You guys work great together.
I'd like to. We were on stage once at the Troubadour. We did a thing on stage, and I wrote that tune called I Never Talk to Strangers. And we did as a duet with kind of a baby, it's cold outside sort of flavor that I really like.
Yeah, that was great. That was a great piece you did.
I think maybe we may do something in the future.
She's
just doing a film right now, so...
You're one of the few artists in the commercial field that I've ever heard of that went 2-track directly to the tape or to disc, right? Right to disc, without any of that.
Well, not directly to the disc, but we cut the whole thing live 2-track in the studio. It's like so there's that no multi-tracking, no overdubbing at all. So I get a performance in the studio.
With an orchestra and the whole thing.
Yeah, I stood in the studio for the last album in the middle of the studio with like 52 musicians. It's very exciting.
I wonder if it's like Sinatra. I mean, there it is. You want the concert way? He did it his way. Oh, that's great.
How I
Magic.